Hello, my name is Kenzie Prouse, and I am with a group of Portland State students who are interested in preserving endangered fish. Recently, my colleagues and I did extensive research into the overfishing of the Atlantic bluefin tuna. The market for tuna is thriving, however, the tuna is not. Currently, the bluefin tuna population is in decline caused by overfishing and rapid consumption due to high demand. Tuna have been prized for decades as both a sport fish and a culinary delicacy. This popularity among fishermen and consumers is driving population numbers down. It's time to take a hard look at the factors causing this decline and what society can do to protect these fish from total extinction so that it may enjoy them for many years to come. The most foremost factor in the tuna's decline is its maturity rate. The species' inability to recover its population every year is not allowing adequate numbers to remain in the sea. Bluefin do not reach maturity until 8 to 12 years old, but research shows that these fish are being pulled out at only months old. It is crucial that governments enforce stricter fishing regulations to allow these fish time to populate themselves before fishermen even think about pulling more out of the ocean. If this doesn't happen, it will be impossible for any future generations to savor them at all. Demand for this delicacy is hurting the species. Bluefins can eventually weigh up to 800 pounds and can be sold for $100,000 or more in Japan. Fetching such high prices is a key reason fishermen are choosing this catch over others. Focus needs to be aimed at directing supplier attention towards other popular fish to protect the tuna. Consumer attention needs to shift as well. Japan alone is consuming 80% of the bluefin tuna that is caught. If only one could change human taste, right? To protect this species, it is pertinent to restrict the amount one could buy. This could effectively influence the whole chain. If consumers are forced to find an alternative purchase even half the time, fishermen will have less reason to try to catch these fish over others. This could potentially allow the tuna a better chance at recovery. Protection of this species is vital. If one species goes extinct, humans will move on to the next thing and then destroy it. Understanding that banning fishing or consumption has never worked in the past is crucial. Banning is not proactive. However, controlling the supply and demand is. If Starbucks can do it with its pumpkin spice lattes, Japan's government should be able to make the selling of tuna quantities limited. We need to allow consumers the ability of choice, but balance the species' survival as well so that future generations may enjoy them not just today, but in the future as well. Next, I'm going to give you over to my colleagues at Portland State University, where Bailey Well will talk more in detail about the overfishing and poor maturity rates of these fish. Bailey?
This being said, and this having been mentioned, we can now take a look at just how the bluefin tuna itself, as a species, how it's decreased due to overfishing. But before we dig too deep into that, I would like to first start off by analyzing tuna biomass measurements calculated by the International Committee for Tuna and Tuna-like Species during the summer of 2016. Now, this is an analysis of the stock assessment of the tuna that is spawning. So, why then? Why does this committee utilize tuna stock biomass as a measurement? And why as a variable? Well, by utilizing it as a measurement and a variable, like I just said, they're able to measure the amount of tuna each year that spawns in tons, which is quite interesting, but it's kind of sad as well in the end. Because as we can see, historically speaking, from about the first recording in 1950 all the way until 2016 today, there's a negative decrease. There is a negative relationship amongst these variables, which is not good, hinting and suggesting that the amount of bluefin tuna each year spawning is overall decreasing. More specifically, if we were to look at 1952, about right here, we can see 15,000 tons of tuna that have spawned, compared to 2016, which was about 5,000 tons of tuna, and this difference is 66%, meaning there's been a 66% decrease in the bluefin tuna over the past 64 years. Being that this population has decreased 66% over the past 64 years, it arises a lot of concern and many questions regarding what exactly contributes to overfishing, and is it more than just overfishing? And that's when we realize, yes, it is more. There are 3 things that actually contribute along with overfishing that have decreased the bluefin tuna so drastically. The first is that the bluefin tuna has a very odd, very strange maturity rate when compared to other fish and species. Second, the bluefin tuna's market price in Asian countries is so high it just keeps demanding more and more. And second, the overall demand for the tuna is deriving every day because it's considered such a delicacy and such a treat in different countries. But again, before we dive too deep into this, the very first issue is that the bluefin tuna takes a lot longer on average to sexually reproduce, taking 8 to 12 years, as according to the World Wildlife Foundation. And because of this fact, people such as Brian Scarry, oceanologists, and other scientists have said because of these, the bluefin tuna is very vulnerable to overfishing. And if we were to take a look at a graph from the same stock assessment conducted by this Committee for Tuna and Tuna-like Species during 2016, we can see how this holds true. So if we take a look at the caught age of fish in numbers times thousands relative to the fishing year, again, we can see an increase. There's more or less a positive relationship, but this positive relationship is quite bad indeed. But I'll get into that in just one second. This graph, though, as you've seen, is measuring a little bit more than just the average fish that are caught in numbers. It's measuring the age, and a large amount of this graph is made up of nothing but blue and green. Blue and green consists of fish aged 0 to 1, really again suggesting the fact that the bluefin tuna does not have enough time to sexually reproduce once it's caught, which just continues to decrease the population. And nearing the end of the graph right here, again talking about that positive relationship, we can see it increasing, meaning the number of fish caught each year continually increases. Now, why? Why would that be happening if the amount of fish spawning each year is decreasing? Well, this is something that Jason is going to discuss, and how the continuous demand and high market price contributes to overfishing and overall the decrease of the bluefin tuna.
With Bailey having mentioned this, the high demand for bluefin tuna has led to a lucrative market. This demand has led to some insane prices paid for bluefin tuna. This picture right here is of a man holding the head of a bluefin tuna that sold for $1.8 million at the Tsukiji fish market in Japan. Unfortunately, the population of bluefins just isn't able to keep up with this high demand. Besides the harm done to the bluefins, it has also led to increases of their prey, thus disrupting the balance of its environment. According to theprindlepost.org, in exchange, overfishing of top predators, such as the bluefin, leads to a growth of populations in the smaller marine species such as sardines and anchovies. The consequences of this overfishing even leads to threats to coral reef health and the environment being disrupted by the loss of a top predator, that being the bluefin in this case. In an article I read on greenpeace.org, more than 100 million sharks and tens of thousands of turtles are killed every year just as a byproduct from tuna overfishing. And the bluefins are not the only kind of tuna that are in danger. Other species of tuna, such as big eye, albacore, and yellowtail tuna, are all joining in with being overfished and their populations declining. The next time you think about buying tuna, ask where it came from and how it was caught. In the same article from Greenpeace, I read that when you buy tuna, make sure you look for the species name on the can, where it was caught, and the fishing method labeled on the can. Look for pole-in line, troll, hand line, and FAD-free products. This right here is Wild Planet. It was ranked number 1 by Greenpeace for canned tuna for their sustainable fishing methods. But for some people, tuna is more than a food. It's a part of their culture. It's a delicacy.
For a while now, the bluefin tuna is considered as a delicacy in the food industry. And according to a statistic online, Japan consumes about 80% of the bluefin's population. As you can probably guess, there are many sushi restaurants in Japan, and sushi chefs are one of the main reasons why the bluefin population is declining. With the high demand of the fish from consumers, chefs really have no choice but to buy it given the high price. Consumers love to eat the bluefin tuna for a certain part of the fish. As you can see on the screen here, this is an anatomy of the bluefin tuna, and it looks like any regular fish, but imagine that it could grow up into human size. The secret behind why this fish is considered as a delicacy is because of one portion. This under portion right here is called the otoro. And the otoro is the fattiest part of the fish, and is said to be one of the most unique and best tasting delicacies in the world. And is a great reason why people keep coming back to eat this delicious fish. This drives the demand curve upwards and will cause a shortage because there isn't enough bluefin tunas in the world. I wish I could see how this fish tastes for myself, but from what people said online and how it tastes like, they describe it as the tuna combines together with the fatty tissue from the otoro, and then it will generate a rich and creamy taste. Having how people describe it like that, it makes me want to try it out for myself. This is like a chain reaction. A lot of people want to eat this fish for the taste, even if each place is really expensive. And if each place is really expensive, chefs will want to continue selling this fish. And this fish can go into the high prices, like from what Jason said from the market, and that will also benefit the fishermen because fishermen can make a lot of money because they can make if they're able to sell it every day, it really benefits them. All these ties together to show how one portion can be a cause for overfishing and a possibility of an extinction of a species. Now I'll pass it on to Alex, where he will talk about a way to prevent this from happening. Alex?
Thank you, Danny. Now let's take a look at the solution here. In order to solve this dilemma, having more protected marine areas during the reproductive seasons would keep illegal fishermen from interfering with the decrease in the population of the species. This could be where there are known breeding grounds, so the bluefin tuna can reproduce fast enough for consumption. Even with the areas that have regulations, ships can still bypass the area. To prevent bluefin tunas from being overfished, specialists would place trackers on a few fishes, and this could show all routes the fish will take. This method would not only teach us the routes of the fishes, but it would also show where they would breed, and that is where the most protection is needed if we want any chance of increasing the bluefin's population back up. In conclusion, due not only to overfishing, but an unusual maturity reproduction and high demand has this population of bluefin tuna drop an astonishing 66%. With such high demand for the fish, the bluefin tuna becomes more vulnerable to overfishing. In particular, the bluefin tuna's unusual maturity rate limits its chance to reproduce, corresponding in catch numbers that consist of young, immature fish. Therefore, overfishing not only decreases the potential population of tuna, it continually drives up the market price due to increasing demand. The increase of demand for tuna belly, or otoro in particular, has been the cause for such a downward spiral for this species. Therefore, with the ever-increasing demand for otoro and low supply, the market price for the bluefin tuna will continue to climb. Within Japan, at the Tsukiji fish market, average individuals in Japan are willing to pay up to 12 million yen per fish, which is around $100,000 USD. In Japan, some locations will sell this otoro for up to $96 per piece, contributing even more to what is already in high demand. The consumption of this otoro may give you a few moments of delight, but in exchange, we're not only overfishing, we are driving the bluefin tunas towards extinction. With this in mind, organizations are now trying to take action to preserve the bluefin tunas, preventing its extinction. Hopefully, the next time you're craving for otoro, you will think twice.